I had made some points, but I think they are of no use because most of the people have said what they had to say about Kashmir. But it's great to be here, the capital. In any part of the world, the capital is the temple of democracy. That's how it's been perceived. America, through its Hollywood movies, has propagated American democracy, the land of liberty, the land of equality, the land of justice, land of freedom, which is true. But whenever we had to learn about democracy, we learned it the American way. Even if you go in European countries, the whole concept of democracy today is the American democracy. And the American media, American diplomats, American leaders, American influencers, American NGOs, they talk a lot about humanity. And you go anywhere in the world, and if you speak about humanity, naturally, American leaders, American narrative is always in the forefront. And especially in last few years, since we have started talking about Kashmir on global platform, the American narrative of humanity has also become very intense, and all American media is trying to teach Indians what humanity is all about. So I had made some points, but it's no point talking about them. Let's just speak about humanity. Do you know, when the Western world was conquering the geographical continents by killing people, destroying civilizations, destroying cultures, at that time, perhaps few thousand years before that, in a land from where I come from, we worship somebody called Shiva. And Shiva is a concept of oneness. If you ever go to the world's largest particle science laboratory, which is in Switzerland, the CERN, the first thing you will see outside is Shiva's statue in cosmic dance, the Tandav Nritya. I just took out what is written there. Fritjof Capra, the greatest physicist, it's his quote. It says, "The dance of Shiva symbolizes the basis of all existence." At the same time, Shiva reminds us that the manifold forms in the world are not fundamental but illusory and ever changing. Modern physics has shown that the rhythm of creation and destruction is not only manifest in the turn of the seasons and in the birth and death of all living creatures, but is also the very essence of inorganic matter. For the modern physicists, then Shiva's dance is the dance of subatomic matter, the basis of all existence and of all natural phenomena. What are we trying to say here? The modern physics believes in oneness. It says the particle is one with the cosmos. And this concept of oneness actually was discovered in a land which is called Kashmir. The symbolism of Shiva has come from Kashmir. So the first principle of humanity, oneness, comes from Kashmir. When the great sage Ramana Maharshi was asked by a BBC or some foreign correspondent how to treat others, he said, "There are no others." There is no other civilization or culture in the world, in the history of humanity, which has ever spoken like this, that there are no others. Because the evolution of humankind in the Western world is based on othering others, othering people. And that has spread in the eastern parts also. And that's why Kashmir suffered, where the natives were othered by the invaders. The second concept of humanity. Why humanity is so different from animal kingdom? Because we have language. The single most important reason why we are different is language. Without language, you can't think. There is no thought without language. There is nothing without language. From language comes art, literature, poetry, culture, understanding. Everything which we call beautiful in this world comes from art and culture, knowledge, wisdom. We are the only society in the world where we worship three goddesses. You know Durga, Lakshmi, and Saraswati. And Saraswati is the goddess of wisdom, of knowledge, of poetry, of music, of art, of literature. And this goddess, her abode is Kashmir. Sharda, they call her. And today, when I went to shoot in Kashmir just few months ago, believe you me, there is no art, there is no music, there is no literature. There is nothing which is good or beautiful about life which today you will find in Kashmir. The terror groups and the terrorists have destroyed everything. Somebody tried to open a cinema hall, there was firing, hundreds of people were killed, it was shut down. Young boys and girls who worked in our movie have requested us not to put their names. Because if their names are associated with art, they are killed. So this whole worshipping, knowledge, education, music and art, the very pillar, the very basis of humanity actually was discovered in Kashmir, which is in India. Third thing I want to discuss with you is this whole concept of inclusiveness, this whole concept of peace. Perhaps you don't know that India is the only civilization in the history of humanity which gave this world four most peaceful religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism. There is no other civilization like that. We are the only civilization, or the Hindu philosophy, if you believe in God, you are a Hindu. If you don't believe in God, you are a Hindu. If you criticize and abuse your gods, you are still a Hindu. You remain indifferent to Hinduism, still you are a Hindu. Where do you find this kind of beautiful inclusiveness? Because we don't believe in the concept of intolerance or tolerance. We believe in the concept of cosmic acceptance. And cosmic acceptance is coming from the same concept of oneness. This duality, east versus west, north versus south, rich versus poor. We have divided the entire world into different sections. It's like a library. You have put different people in different catalog sections. But I want to ask you today, wood in any form remains wood. The source is wood. This podium, that table, that chair, they are all made of wood. The source is the same. So if we have to talk about humanity, the first thing we have to speak about the source. What is the source? And if in source all of us are same, if the creator is the same, where is this otherness coming from? This otherness is coming from when the modern Western world goes and teaches people what humanity is all about for their own geopolitical vested interest. And another thing I want to discuss with you is the fourth thing is that the entire destruction, not just of a state, why Kashmir is so important to the world or to us. Because Kashmir If you see, when I was researching, when we started making this film, I also approached Kashmir like anybody else in this world as a conflict zone. What is Kashmir? Ask anybody in this world. And they will say there is terrorism. They'll say it's a conflict zone. Some people in the West, they will say that there is no freedom for people. People will talk about everything. People talk in the context of Kashmir is political. Absolutely political. And I think that is the most inhuman part of discussing Kashmir, because Kashmir is not just politics. Kashmir has given us so much of knowledge and culture. I started from Shiva. I came to Saraswati. If I go on like that, all the great philosophy which you hear, the concept of non-dualism, Advaita, yoga and Ayurveda, Western medical science is based on cutting dead bodies. The entire medical science it evolved by cutting dead bodies. Yoga and Ayurveda are the only life sciences which evolved by studying, observing living bodies. There's a fundamental difference. The great literature of Kalidas, grammar, musicology, astronomy, trigonometry, hydraulic engineering, Panchtantra. I am sure anybody who's from India knows about Panchtantra. Do you know which is the world's most translated book? It's not Bible. It's not Shakespeare. It's Panchtantra. Most translated. That comes from Kashmir. So destruction of Kashmir is actually destruction of knowledge. Think about it. It's not just political. And look at what Kashmir has done. Kashmir is also a story of pain and suffering, but at the same time, I would like you to think about it. Kashmir is also a story of success. That to me is humanity. Playing victim card, crying about your victimization all the times, gaining sympathy, raising money, using it for political advantage. Kashmiris didn't do that. Kashmiri Pandits never did that. Instead, how they fought terrorism? They educated their children. They believed in peace. Not even one Kashmiri Pandit ever retaliated. Not one. One or two tried. They took some very badly made bomb. It blasted on their own hands. I think one died and one got injured. They never retaliated. I was trying, while making the film, I was trying to find if there are hate speeches. Not one. Not one. To me, I am a little philosophically inclined, and I have read the history of humanity. I don't care about countries, I read about the humanity, and I have seen the greatest power humans have is to succeed against all odds. That is real humanity. They did not make museums. They are rich people, they could have made. And I was telling today Surinder Kaulji that you guys are walking, talking, living museums. You don't have to build these four walls and put pictures. That is success. That is the story humanity needs to learn and has to hear. And that's why we made this movie, because I wanted people to know and understand about the greatness of Kashmir. I never wanted to focus on the weaknesses and this is what is happening in politics. That is for media to play around. So this is, in brief, the land of humanity. And today, this land of humanity is being destroyed by China-funded and Pakistan-funded terrorism, the red terror money on one side, the green terror money on one side. And Kashmir has become a kind of an amusement park for the West. Whenever they want to use it to their advantage, they use it, and nobody contributes anything. It's become a reality show. And therefore, I thought one has to understand humanity from a totally different point of view. I hope that this film, this narrative, we are going door to door, city to city. We are trying to show our film to people. I hope this film will open many eyes and they will also understand with this kind of pain and suffering, despite that, how education, how art, how culture, how wisdom helps you. And it's no wonder that it's coming from Kashmiri Pandits. Just now the congressman said that they are the most educated and the most successful ethnic community in USA. Even in India, they are the most educated and the most successful community in India or anywhere in the world. I think that is the story we should take forward to inspire people and let the world know what humanity actually means. Thank you. Thank you.